All right, so we got to talk about this plane crash that happened yesterday in Louisville. This tragic situation claimed the lives of, from what I'm seeing, 7 people so far and impacted thousands and thousands of people, obviously, because anybody that was at the Louisville airport, their flights all got canceled after that crash happened. In addition to that, there was a significant number of people who were injured. And when these types of breaking events come out, like, information changes at such a rapid rate. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of everything and it's hard to keep the right information down. So I typically like to do like an after action the following day so I can go back and see what types of things have been updated since then. So I'm recording this video. It's currently 5 o'clock in the morning. So when this releases this afternoon, the information may have changed by then. But for right now, this is what I've been able to find. So as you all know, on November 4th, 2025, a UPS flight 2976, which was a McDonnell Douglas MD-11 Foxtrot cargo aircraft, crashed shortly after takeoff from the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport in Louisville, Kentucky. The plane was supposed to be en route to Daniel K. Inouye International Airport in Honolulu, which is like the main airport in Hawaii. And it was carrying approximately 220,000 pounds of jet fuel, which is equivalent to about 38,000 gallons. I know people would mix that up like different times because people thought it was 220,000 gallons, 220,000 pounds, but 38,000 gallons. But no hazardous cargo. The big fireball that you saw was all of that jet fuel going up in flames, which jet fuel is extremely toxic, and we'll get to that. Anyway, the crash took place around 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time, roughly 3 miles south of the airport near Fern Valley Road and Grade Lane in an industrial and residential area. The aircraft struck 2 businesses, a waste management facility, and a Grade A auto parts before erupting into a massive fireball. Now, this thing scattered debris all over the place across roadways, igniting multiple fires all over the vicinity of anywhere that it crashed by. And this specific incident is one of the deadliest aviation incidents in the United States in recent years, disrupting operations at UPS's global air cargo hub Worldport, which handles over 300 flights daily and 2 million packages. And then in addition to that, the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport basically had to cancel all their flights for the rest of the evening until 7 a.m. today because there was so much smoke. They just deemed it unsafe to be landing and taking off. Now, the Federal Aviation Administration and National Transportation Safety Board are currently investigating this incident, with the National Transportation Safety Board leading the probe. And preliminary data suggests that the plane reached an altitude of 175 feet and a speed of 184 knots before a sharp descent. There were a lot of eyewitness videos that captured the flames on the left wing and engine during takeoff, but the exact cause still remains undetermined at this time. They're still trying to figure it out. So let's talk about the timeline of events. At 5:15 p.m., the UPS flight 2976 departs runway 29 at Muhammad Ali International Airport. They're departing for Honolulu. By 5:16, the plane briefly climbed to 175 feet, and then it descended sharply with the left engine wing reportedly on fire during takeoff roll. And then the crash occurred near Fern Valley Road and Grade Lane, impacting 2 buildings and exploding. By 5:20 p.m., the Federal Aviation Administration confirmed the crash. The airport closed the airfield. The Louisville Metro Police issue a shelter in place within 5-mile radius due to the heavy smoke and fire, and more emergency responders start getting spun up. By 5:30 p.m., emergency responders, including hundreds of firefighters, EMS, and others, arrive at the scene. There's massive plumes of smoke on the radar visible from miles away. And then by 6 p.m., Governor Andy Beshear confirms awareness and urges prayers. And then initial reports start rolling in of injuries without any confirmed fatalities at 6 p.m. Then by 7 p.m., Mayor Craig Greenberg and Fire Chief Brian O'Neill held a press conference confirming that there was at least 4 ground fatalities. And then they said that the fire was nearly contained at 7 p.m. last night. By 8 p.m., 1 hour later, the death toll rose to 7, including 3 crew, because all 3 crew members were confirmed deceased from this thing. They also confirmed that 11 people were injured. The National Transportation Safety Bureau announced that there is a team arrival for Wednesday investigation. And then by 10 p.m., the fire was confirmed to be fully contained. And then airport cancellations have continued into Tuesday night. It's now Wednesday, the 5th of November, today, as I'm recording this video. They had some reunification centers open at Louisville Police Training Academy for people that were like, meet back up with their family if they were concerned that somebody was injured. And then by November 5th, early in the morning, the airport planned to partially open with delays while UPS halts sorting at the Worldport hub. And there's been a massive pollution spike near Jefferson, Indiana. Now, like I said, there's been 7 fatalities confirmed, with officials still expecting the toll to rise, in addition to that. And this includes all 3 crew members that were on the plane. And then they said that 4 deaths occurred on the ground. Now, as far as how those people died or what happened, they haven't specified yet. But there's a possibility it could have been from immolation. So far, there's been reports of 11 people that were injured from this, including some critical burn victims and non-life-threatening cases. They started getting people like burn victims at the hospital shortly after this thing happened at the University of Louisville Hospital. 10 of the victims were treated there at the University of Louisville Hospital, actually. As of right now, there's 3 employees from Grade A Auto Parts that remain unaccounted for, because I'm sure that all of the businesses in the area that were anywhere nearby where the plane crashed probably tried to get accountability of everybody, saying, hey, look, call all your people, make sure you get a quick head count, figure out if who's answering, who's not answering, and just confirm if people are, alive and well. And they're still missing 3 people, apparently. One of the notable cases that, Grade A Auto Parts says that they're still not able to find is a 45-year-old woman who was dropping off scrap metal at the site around 4:30 p.m. Her boyfriend and family are still awaiting news at the reunification center at the police academy. So hopefully the news they get's not bad, but your guess is as good as mine. The 3 crew members were all UPS employees, and their identities have not yet been released because they're waiting to notify the families first. UPS initially reported no confirmed injuries, but later confirmed all perished. Actually, UPS finally put out a statement yesterday as well. Looks like they posted on X at 10:26 p.m. on November 4th. UPS posted, quote, "We are terribly saddened by the accident tonight in Louisville. Our heartfelt thoughts are with everyone involved. UPS is committed to the safety of our employees, our customers, and the communities we serve. This is particularly true in Louisville, home to our airline and thousands of UPSers. We are engaged with the National Transportation Safety Board's investigation of the accident and are staying in close contact with the Federal Aviation Administration. We will work tirelessly with state and local authorities on response efforts. As a result of the accident, we are halting package sorting operations tonight at Worldport. Family members seeking information should call 800-631-0604. So that was the first response I saw on X from UPS. Now, the craziest footage I've seen coming out of here, obviously you saw all of the footage of this gigantic fireball spreading over what looks like, a few miles. I wouldn't say dozens of miles, but it definitely looked like it got spread over like a mile or 2. But the craziest one was like the CCTV footage of the plane actually coming into view, crossing over, and just like creating a massive fireball in the background. And then, I started seeing some videos started popping up around like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning on November 5th of a truck driver who had a dash cam. And the dude was just sitting inside of his truck. And while he was sitting in the truck, I don't know, maybe he might have been like resting. He might have been just hanging out. And then he saw the plane fly in front of him. And he's just like, oh my God, the look of shock on this dude's face. Seeing a plane crashing into the ground and just massive plumes of smoke flying up. Massive fireball getting ignited and floating up into the atmosphere. That dude got out of his truck and must have been absolutely shocked. Seeing something like that happen in front of you, not on TikTok, not in your, not in like a social media app, but seeing it in person, that's a whole different type of experience. I don't know if he's going to have any like post-traumatic stress from seeing that horrible thing. That is a pretty terrifying thing to see. He's lucky that he was backed up far enough that he wasn't in the path of that plane as it was coming down. And then obviously, like you've probably seen the footage of the plane. It was like completely turning over as it was crashing. And I can't imagine what must have been going through the heads of those 3 UPS pilots that were on that plane when that thing was going down. I can't even imagine. Because what happened is it started turning over, and then as it was crashing, it turned over on its left side and was just grinding down into the ground, and it was moving so quickly. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the aircraft flight details and try to look into some of the investigation stuff that's underway right now. So like we talked about before, the aircraft was a Mike Delta 11 Foxtrot freighter, registered November 259 Uniform Papa, which is a wide-body cargo jet manufactured in 1991. It was 34 years old. It was acquired by UPS in 2006 and last operated by Boeing after its 1997 merger with McDonnell Douglas. Now, earlier on November 4th, the plane flew from Louisville to Baltimore and returned from Baltimore just before the Honolulu departure. The typical flight to Honolulu from Louisville is about 8.5 hours. Now, the load that it had was a standard load of 220,000 pounds of jet fuel, which is, its maximum capacity. And it had standard cargo, nothing hazardous. But that's the reason why this fireball was so big, was because it was completely topped off because it was getting ready to execute an 8.5 hour flight. Now, the videos are suggesting that there was a fire on the left engine pre-impact, and weather was clear at the time, so there's no immediate mechanical or pilot error indications, but there may have been some sort of engine trouble with the left engine before this thing turned over like that. Now, the agencies that are currently involved in this is like the National Transportation Safety Bureau, like I was saying, and they're the ones that are the lead investigators on it, with a full team arriving Wednesday to examine the wreckage, the black boxes, and maintenance records of this particular aircraft. The Federal Aviation Administration is also supporting the investigation, and they issued a preliminary statement as well. Governor Andy Beshear posted at 5:51 p.m. shortly after the crash, saying, "Kentucky, we are aware of a reported plane crash near Louisville International Airport. First responders are on site, and we will share more information as available. Please pray for the pilots, the crew, and everyone affected. We will share more soon." And this is on X. And then, of course, at 6:09, he said, "This situation is serious. Please pray for the families affected. I'm headed to Louisville now." And then Governor Beshear and emergency management officials provided an update from Louisville live from a Louisville Metro TV broadcast to provide updates for everybody. Yeah. Then he talked about how the death toll has now reached 7, with that number expected to rise. First responders are on site and working hard to extinguish the fire and continue the investigation. Now, a lot of people have been saying that this reminds them of a previous incident with a UPS cargo flight that left from Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport back in 2013, because there was another cargo flight on August 14th of 2013. UPS Airlines Flight 1354 was scheduled to fly from Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport in Kentucky to Birmingham Shuttleworth International Airport in Alabama, and it crashed short of the runway during a non-precision instrument approach to runway 18 at the airport. The Airbus A300 struck trees and terrain approximately 3,300 feet short of the runway, about 0.6 miles north of the airport, before bursting into flames. Both pilots, the only occupants, were killed, marking the second fatal accident in UPS Airlines history. Now, for that particular flight, which was supposed to be a 50-minute flight, there was a 58-year-old Captain Surya Beale Jr. and 37-year-old First Officer Shanda Fanning, both of whom had several thousand flight hours, including stints as flight engineers. So neither of them were inexperienced. They were both pretty experienced pilots. Some of the recordings of what they were talking about in the cockpit voice recorder, one specific topic was discussed a lot. They were basically talking about how much time they had for rest. Some of the things they said was, quote, "We only have 2 hours today in Birmingham. Rockford is only 14 hours and so many minutes rest. So you figure a 30-minute ride to the hotel. By the time you go to sleep, you're down to about 12. This is where the passenger side, the new rules they're going to make out." So the National Transportation Safety Board classified this flight 1354 that crashed in 2013. They classified it as a controlled flight into terrain incident, primarily due to pilot error during an unstabilized approach, compounded by fatigue and inadequate crew resource management. So basically, they're saying that the pilots were extremely tired, and it was compounded with a bunch of other human factors as well. The investigation of that particular crash took 15 months. They ended up ruling out mechanical faults after they examined the wreckage, the FDR, CVR data, maintenance records, and simulator recreations. And what they ended up determining is that the probable cause of what made that aircraft crash was that the flight crew failed to maintain a stabilized approach while they were descending. And they were also descending without runway visual confirmation, leading to the controlled crash into terrain. So that's the last time something like this happened. Anyway, this crash that happened last night ended up having 200 firefighters from Louisville Fire Department respond to it, along with a bunch of Jefferson County agencies from all over the place. And then they fought this blaze until about 10 p.m. where they finally contained it with foam and water. Either way, this is a horrific incident, and I hope they figure out what caused it so that they can prevent it from happening in the future, because not only does this affect the people that were on the plane, but all of the people that were in the trajectory and the path of it. I know there's been a lot of concerns with furloughed air traffic controllers, especially for people that are just flying civilian to travel back and forth between cities for work or business or whatever they've got. Or, we got the holidays coming up. And obviously this wasn't a passenger aircraft. This was a cargo aircraft. But with the ongoing government shutdown, there's a lot of people that are concerned about how the lack of funding for air traffic controllers is going to impact travel during the holidays. So I don't think this had anything to do with that necessarily, but that's something that's also of concern to people that are traveling by aircraft, especially right now, given the circumstances on the 5th of November. So again, I don't think that's what happened with this, because it looked like from the videos that the left wing or the left engine under the left wing was on fire as it was like going down. So it's tough to say what actually caused that to happen, but hopefully they figure it out so that way they can prevent this from happening again. There's a lot of people that have been speculating that the left engine fully or partially separated mid-takeoff, causing an asymmetric thrust, hydraulic failure, slat retraction, and a left wing stall, which is something that apparently happened to a 1979 American Airlines Flight 191 disaster, where an engine pylon failure led to a similar type of crash. Other people have been speculating that the engine fell off the wing after a 2-hour maintenance delay, specifically on that engine earlier that day. And then other people said that there is uncontained engine explosion that started blowing up at full throttle up, with flames trailing from the start of the runway, questioning why pilots wouldn't shut it off before liftoff. There's also people that were speculating that it could have been foreign objects or debris on the runway that caused it to, catch on fire. Some people were saying that there was like a cowling or parts from a prior takeoff that was left on the runway that got sucked up into the UPS plane's engine during rotation, causing it to fail and detach. Apparently, the airport operations reportedly confirmed non-UPS debris on the runway. And then some people were speculating that it might have been a bird strike, which is like when, a bird or animal or loose objects puncture the engine or underside, leading to fuel leakage and ignition. But that's less likely to be the case. And then, of course, you're going to have your people that are speculating like deliberate action or sabotage, which I don't think that's the case. I think this was an accident. And again, the air traffic controller maintenance lapses, like with as far as the furloughed federal workers or something like that, there's theorists that are trying to speculate that the unpaid or furloughed federal workers failed to spot the runway debris or approve maintenance. People are trying to lay the blame on politics, or they're trying to say that the government shutdown is the cause for this. But I think it's a little too early to tell if that's what happened or if that's like the reason for this, Either way, people speculate all the time. Point is, I would always refer to official channels like the governor, National Transportation Safety Board, the Federal Aviation Administration, and UPS. And I'm sure as they gain more information about this, they'll release it to the public. So anyway, pray for the victims, pray for the people that are affected by this, and hopefully they can find a way to prevent this from happening again in the future. All right, guys, that's it for the daily roll-up. I appreciate you watching the video. If you're watching this right now and you're seeing this, that means you watched it all the way through. And believe it or not, that does actually help support the channel, because it tells YouTube, hey, you should recommend this video to other people. So if you want to support the channel in other ways, you can like this video, you can leave a comment in the comment section below, or you can share this video with your friends. So let us know what you thought about the video in the comments below, and we will see you guys in the next video.